There's a few brand new Nintendo Switch stories we have to talk about today, starting with some more good news around Nintendo and the Switch's sales momentum. Then we also have to cover a brand new leak that does suggest that Nintendo has a major game finished and ready to go that could be revealed at the upcoming Nintendo Direct. Then the big talking point for today's video has to do with the surprise firmware update that did hit the Nintendo Switch last night, and a breakdown of exactly what was changed internally, and a broad discussion of what we need to see Nintendo do with future system updates going forward. What's up, Nation? If it's your first time on the channel, make sure you join Sunbro Nation by subscribing below, hit the like button on this video if you enjoy it today, and make sure you turn on your bell notification icon so you're kept up to date with all the newest gaming news. Now, as I mentioned, guys, we got a few different stories to unpack today, and we have to kick it off with the discussion around the latest NPD sales data, as May has now officially closed out and been finalized. And if you are unfamiliar with the NPD, of course, they track all of the major hardware and software sales here in the North American region, and it is very reliable data, and we once again have Nintendo Switch finishing out number one in both total unit and dollar sales, which is notable because, of course, the Nintendo Switch, while more readily available than the competition being the PS5 and Xbox Series X, is also significantly less expensive in a dollar amount. So sometimes you see things like Microsoft take the lead or Sony take the lead in total revenue sales, but Nintendo this month did actually achieve, in the month of May, closed out number one in units and dollar sales total. As you can see, the following posted up on Nintendo Everything: May 2022 NPD, Switch led all hardware platforms in both units and dollars. According to the latest NPD report, Switch led all hardware platforms in both units and dollars in the United States last month. Additionally, the system is the market-leading platform in hardware units sold year to date. Xbox Series saw the highest dollar sales in the period. Not only is Nintendo still expecting strong hardware sales with Switch, but high software sales as well. In the latest sales chart, Nintendo Switch Sports was the third best-selling title in May. A number of Switch games were also sprinkled throughout the top 20, including Kirby and the Forgotten Land, Mario Kart 8, Pokemon Legends Arceus, and more. To then quickly highlight that top 10 and see where the Nintendo games rank amongst the others, you have Elden Ring from Bandai Namco coming in at number 1, Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga at number 2, Nintendo Switch Sports finishing out at number 3, Evil Dead the Game in at number 4, MLB The Show 2022 number 5, Kirby and the Forgotten Land number 6, Call of Duty Vanguard 7, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe number 8, because of course it's still in the top 10, Gran Turismo 7 coming in at 9, and Pokemon Legends Arceus rounding out the top 10 for NPD May 2022 best-selling games. So when you take into consideration that we're well over 5+ full years of the Nintendo Switch being sold and available on the market, and we're now into the 6th year of this console sales, it's definitely an impressive feat to continue to be month in and month out top unit, and most of the time top dollar sales as well. Of course, the chip shortage situation is absolutely hampering everybody right now, and essentially whoever can produce the most hardware will sell the most hardware in this current environment that we are in. And I will be curious to see how Nintendo responds to this when investors ask them, as clearly the Switch OLED model and the base model and the Lite model are all continuing to do well, and the question then becomes, when does the demand start to dwindle down for the Switch, and does Nintendo want to get ahead of any potential down curve in the sales trajectory and come out with that more powerful Switch model that will actually get people to upgrade? I am sure at the upcoming investors meeting / heavily rumored Nintendo Direct timeframe that these questions will be asked from investors, so maybe we'll get some kind of hint of information of what Nintendo is planning when it comes to future hardware plans, but clearly they're not going to say anything officially until they are ready to reveal whatever the next model, if there is a next model of the Switch, before they talk about things like a true hard next generation console break from the current Switch model, which I think, even if they don't want to do a Switch Pro, just do the Switch 2 when you're ready for it, make it backwards compatible. They have absolutely struck gold with this hybrid formula in the modern era that we are in, as people want to have the options to play games on the go. Cloud technology is not quite there to make that a seamless experience yet with no lag or latency, so the Switch is just clearly the best of both worlds. And if they get a more powerful chip that supports things like 4K DLSS upres when docked, and then you also just have some better visuals on the go, maybe things like 1080p resolution when playing in handheld mode, and a good price point to launch at, I think you just slash the price of the base model Switch and maybe phase it out altogether, sell the OLED alongside of a more powerful Switch, and make some of the upcoming games cross-generational as long as you can, and I think Nintendo repeats their formula easily for another 5 years plus with record industry-leading sales. I want to hear from you guys at this point in the video. What, if anything, do you think we will see Nintendo comment on in terms of their sales momentum for the Switch? Are you expecting something like a more powerful hardware refresh to be hinted at or brought up at this upcoming investors meeting? And how do you think Nintendo needs to navigate their unprecedented success with the Nintendo Switch console itself? So please share all your thoughts and feelings on all things Nintendo Switch and this hardware momentum in the comments down below. Now, the next story we're talking about today has to do with a brand new leak that has hit the internet, suggesting that Nintendo has a fully finished game that is ready to go that we could see launched as soon as something like the upcoming heavily rumored Nintendo Direct. Now, this comes to us from Emily Rogers, who, if you are not familiar, is probably one of the most reliable names out there in terms of insider information, as she's been proven right time and time again with multiple indie directs, knowing the information before they go live, and just a long overall history of leaking things ahead of their official announcement from Nintendo themselves. And the game in question here is a mainline completed and ready to go, according to Emily Rogers, finished Fire Emblem game. Now, we of course know to expect Fire Emblem 3 Hopes to launch later this month, which is more akin to what a Hyrule Warrior style game is, where yes, it has the assets of Fire Emblem and the characters. However, the game is going to play like a warrior style game, and you can argue that it's not in any way, shape, or form a mainline entry in the Fire Emblem franchise. And while there may be some very cool story and lore elements from this being based in the world of Fire Emblem Three Houses, Three Hopes is ultimately a Warriors game, and this would be what fans would be wanting for that, like that traditional tactical RPG style game. Now, to get on the same page with exactly what's being claimed here, let's quickly hop over to VGC and read through their detailed typed up article together. Nintendo Insider claims a new mainline Fire Emblem game has been finished for over a year. The game was originally due to coincide with the series' 30th anniversary, it's claimed. Emily Rogers, who has a strong track record of accurate Nintendo reporting, claimed on Fami boards that a new Fire Emblem title has been finished for over a year. According to Rogers, the game was originally intended to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the series, which was in 2020. The game is reportedly a collaboration between Intelligent Systems, Koei Tecmo, and Gust, a division of Koei Tecmo Holdings, and the graphics are said to be an improvement over Three Houses. The main character will have strange red and blue hair, Rogers claims, and his mother is a dragon. The game will also reportedly have an Embers feature, which lets players summon Fire Emblem characters from the past, another nod to its original purpose as a 30th anniversary celebration. Now, if this title is indeed confirmed and officially revealed from Nintendo at the upcoming Nintendo Direct presentation, it will be a very interesting talking point around how far in advance sometimes Nintendo is willing to just sit on games and move things around based off of what they think they need for their release lineup schedule to look like. And so if this game has literally been done for well over a year at this point, that is going to be a very interesting conversation to have. And stories like this definitely get me thinking again about the heavily rumored Metroid Prime 1 remake and or Metroid Prime Trilogy HD, and that big, long rumored and awaited Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD that I think we are all hoping we should hopefully see featured and announced soon at a Nintendo Direct. While not guaranteed, it would definitely be some of my most hyped games. Now, I am historically not the biggest Fire Emblem player out there, but I can definitely see the appeal of these tactical style RPGs, and I own Three Houses, however, have not yet made the time to boot it up and get through the story mode in it, but I'm excited to do that as soon as I can get through some extra games in the backlog that seems to be growing all too rapidly for my own liking. But I would love to hear from you guys, especially if you are Fire Emblem fans. Does this news have you hyped? Are you expecting another mainline entry to be revealed soon? Is there any new gameplay and mechanical style changes that you would like to see as part of this new edition of Fire Emblem? And what do you think about Nintendo potentially having games done for over a year plus and just sitting on them depending on what they think is best for their release timeline? So I want to hear from you guys on all things Fire Emblem, this new leak, and whether or not you're expecting any of these heavily rumored games to hit at the next Nintendo Direct in the comments down below. Now, the last story we're talking about today has to do with a brand new Nintendo Switch system firmware upgrade that did indeed hit late last night. As I was asking questions once the system was updated, what, if anything, was changed here? And we do have now official data mine information of what was changed. And yes, it is minor, just to say that up front. However, every time I see these kind of system updates hit, I get a little bit excited that maybe Nintendo is going to implement some of the features we have been long waiting for this whole time as Nintendo Switch users. And we will dive into what I want to see them do in future updates in just a moment, but to first get on the same page with exactly what's been changed, we can see the information posted up from well-known data miner Oatmeal Dome over on Twitter, where he has the following to say. Nintendo Switch firmware update version 14.1.2 has been released. The following internal OS components have been updated. Bus Bluetooth Package 2 bug fixes. A misspelled version of Hitler's name was added to the bad words list for all languages. Glossary of internal OS components. Bus handles communication between physical components on the motherboard via GPIO, I2C, UART, etc. Bluetooth self-explanatory. Package 2 contains key system components like the kernel. So while this isn't any kind of major system firmware update where things are changed, moved around, or made highly more efficient, I am glad to see Bluetooth on the list of things that are being updated, because I don't know about you guys, but I still have a somewhat wonky experience with Bluetooth getting it to reconnect sometimes. And specifically, it seems like some glitchiness with Joy-Cons when they're disconnected talking to the system while I'm listening to the audio through Bluetooth in handheld mode. So just some weird one-offs here and there. I'll be curious to see if any of that has been streamlined, and the rest more or less seems like system stability stuff. But the reason that I do get hyped when I do see new firmware upgrades for the Nintendo Switch is that it's very interesting that to talk about things like Bluetooth support in the modern era, because we had the Nintendo Switch available for roughly almost 5 years at that point when Nintendo just randomly decided to drop a brand new system firmware upgrade that supported Bluetooth headsets, and that was a huge deal. We went a long period of time not having that functionality, not even knowing if it was possible on the Switch. Then they just enable it down the line, and they did the same thing with their attempt at folders, which I still think should be on the home screen, but it is still a nice step in the right direction that now we can go to our all software section and actually create groups of games. I definitely like that you can add the same game to multiple groups in case you want to have like a Legend of Zelda collection, but then you want certain Zelda games to be in another folder as well, maybe like your go-to Nintendo first party games. Like, there was definitely some good functionality that's been added to the Switch over the course of time with these updates. I think the big one that does need to be enabled, and why it hasn't is a big mystery to me, is definitely themes on the homepage. We have a light and dark theme only for the entire time that the Switch has been on the market, and it has a theme section in the settings. Why is it only light and dark in 2022? I do not know. Nintendo could even print money with this kind of thing, adding in things like dynamic themes, and whenever Breath of the Wild 2 launches, you can pay $1.99 to get a customized home screen background that maybe has small things moving to add in that really nice visual touch, and I'm just surprised that Nintendo hasn't explored that yet. This gets into a little bit more of the NSO online portion, but I do think that things like a built-in trophy system and achievement system, whatever you want to call it, needs to be implemented. They are dipping their toe in the water with this missions and reward system, but it is not a traditional trophy system. And I don't know about you guys, I personally very much enjoy hunting down and getting platinum trophies on my PS5 for games like Elden Ring that I recently achieved. I went above and beyond in that game to make sure I did everything to get the platinum trophy, because stuff like that actually motivates me to get all of the extras and have that kind of badge of honor that you did, all the extra steps that the developers went out of their way to code in and add in to truly complete the game, and it's part of your online profile. I personally love that functionality and would love to have something like that implemented in an upcoming game like Breath of the Wild 2, which might get scary if they have things like a trophy for hunting down all the Korok seeds, if they do anything similar to what they did in Breath of the Wild 1. But you know what? Having a trophy there to do that would probably motivate me to do that task, as opposed to just being like, I'm not going to get the 900 plus Korok seeds. As much as I'm a Zelda completionist, I did not go through the trouble of doing that in Breath of the Wild. But if that was the only thing holding me back from having that 100% complete badge for the game, I would probably do so. But that's my thoughts on the latest system firmware upgrade and what I hope we see Nintendo do in the future. I want to hear from you guys at this point in the video, all the different stories we talked about today. What do you think about Nintendo Switch and continued sales momentum in unit and dollar sales? Do you think it starts to taper off anytime soon? And do you think Nintendo messes with any kind of revision before we talk about the true next-gen hardware? Also, make sure you let me know your thoughts and opinions on the upcoming potentially leaked Fire Emblem game that may be featured at this direct. When do you think we will see it officially revealed? What do you think about Nintendo potentially holding on to games for a year plus just in a finished state? And then definitely share with me your personal features that you would love to see added in future Nintendo Switch firmware upgrades going forward. If you had to rank 2 or 3 of them, definitely share those with me. So regardless of your thoughts and feelings on everything we talked about today, I do look forward to hearing from you guys in the comments down below before you leave the video, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around these topics. Go watch yesterday's video next, where we discuss a brand new free game trial that just hit Nintendo Switch Online and a big update to the ongoing leaks suggesting that we may now know the date of the upcoming Nintendo Direct presentation. Also, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.